all of the youth that we're serving are all of these young people coming from very disenfranchised communities or places. They've been in foster care, they've been connected to the judicial system perhaps, so they're just poor. I know that the majority, if not all, of the core members that serve in our program that we're working with from Detroit live with a grandmother. Very few of them have a father in the home, and many of them didn't even have a mother in the home.
If I think back, and I think if I were 18 and now I don't have that place to live and I have no support, what would happen?
Right. Right.
So I thought what you're doing is just so important.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we do too.
Yeah. I volunteer over at Dan's House, which is a home for chronically homeless alcoholic men.
Right.
And so I've had a chance to see what happens to people when no one's there for them,
Right.
and they get caught in an addiction. And I think, what a fabulous deal if you can catch people at the beginning of their life and get them on a road where they can have something that they can care for themselves with.
I've seen it life changing. Just even in terms of the statistical information that you can draw from our program just in the 5 years now, I think, which is crazy to think about. When we started with some 24 kids, actually first 8 kids from the Adult Community Experience program at TVA, and then now this year we'll have about 140.
What a good thing for our community, what a good thing for our country if we can get our youth to a position where they feel good about themselves and can contribute back to the community.
Yeah, that's everything we do. Everything they do is for the others. We don't even call it work, we call it service. Although it feels it's work and everybody works really hard, but they learn that everything they do, well, first of all, we teach them there's honor in work. Working is important and working hard is important, but when you're doing this, you're serving everyone else. And yes, you're getting a paycheck. Yes, you might be earning some scholarship money, but the fact is all of the projects you touch is to the benefit, the broader community and the environment and the country ultimately. We work with kids that they're not complimented, they're not really praised very often. And I know that we had a team that was working up in Pictured Rocks on trails, and all summer we're up there working on these trails, and it's brutal work carrying lumber up and down these steep, slippery, wet trails and stuff to build these boardwalks. And but while they're on the trail, of course, people are passing us and walking past us, and in a week's time, I think they had 135 people who stopped to thank them.
Oh,
They started keeping count on how many people stopped. Sometimes in different languages too. They were thanking them in German or French or Spanish. One was thanked. They were talking in Polish, and it happened to be one of the kids on the crew spoke Polish, had grown up in Poland, and so they were just poleaxed about that. They were like, this guy knew to speak Polish to them. So they just aren't. It isn't familiar territory for them to experience that kind of community love for something that they're doing. We certainly are thinking about inclusion. From the beginning, we always were, but I think in the last 3 to 4 years, we've got much more intentional about it in order to diversify our team members, which have frankly been mostly rural, white, poor youth, which is fine, but we wanted to also begin to give them the opportunity to serve with other folks, and particularly brown people and people of different gender and persuasions in that way, and have those communications happen sort of naturally. We're not in here pushing or forcing anything about them to deal with issues around race. They just work together and they serve together. Typically what happens is if they're new to the program, they tend to self-segregate. Everybody tends to self-segregate when we have training, and then by mid-July, there's none of that's happening anymore. Everybody's hanging out. We have to go get out of our tent at night and yell at them to get out and go to bed because they're sitting up at the picnic table playing Uno or whatever and laughing and hanging out. And it doesn't start that way, but it gets that way usually midway into the program. And now we have many of them that want to stay here. Whether they've come from a really troubled background, whether they're black, brown, white, if they're Native American, I think that we're teaching, or they're teaching themselves, a level of acceptance and understanding and empathy and sympathy for what other people's circumstances are. Because for the most part, it's often very much the same circumstances. They come from poverty, and they come from family dysfunction, and they come from homes where there's been addiction and domestic abuse, or they've been in the foster care system, or they've been in the juvenile justice system. The one thing I'll say is I can't thank Julie enough as a donor. She's been the best donor I've ever had an opportunity to hang out with and work with. Not that they're not all great, but I think your understanding of the program and what everybody here is trying to accomplish is just really, really important and amazing and touching. And we've been trying to find a home for this program, and I can't not walk up into the back of this property and look down on it and not see the vision that's there.
I just think there couldn't be a better way for you to spend your money. If you can help kids, rather than having them slide into some troubled times, if you can help get them on a road where they can be self-sufficient, they can earn enough money that they can take care of themselves. What a gift.